to win stuff. I'll explain that later, Harry.
All right.
It's an absolute outrage. Even John McMullen would agree, because he's a man of fine tastes and understands history is not supposed to be erased. John, how are you, buddy?
Doing well, trying to erase some history as we speak.
Exactly right. Now, meanwhile...
From Ryan Rothstein.
From Ryan Rothstein. You got bad history.
We're not on good terms right now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. We have a falling out?
You know,
There's a beef at
we can't get into
extending the
details.
play.
We cannot get into details.
Producer,
Wait a second.
producer confidentiality.
I broke an agreement.
Wow. So
We're in the process of rebuilding. It's sort of like McNabb TO. I mean, your historic
Are we
conflicts.
supposed to trust this process since the Sixers won? We can't trust it?
Are you off the podcast?
We extended it a little too far. Let's just say that on extending the play. Yes.
Wow, man.
But I don't want to say too much, John.
You on a 1-week suspension?
It's pending. Yeah, pending investigation.
Well, we got to ask John about his COVID-19 test.
Yes, because
that's what it's involved.
Oh, so yesterday...
We can't say too much about that test.
No, Rothstein told me that the media people who are in certain tiers who have to go into the complex,
right,
and I'm sure this is everywhere in the NFL, they're getting COVID tests. And yesterday, Shady McCoy, Deshaun Jackson. I saw Shady McCoy down there in Tampa getting along with the fellas down there. But Deshaun Jackson posted a video of himself getting swabbed, and it's one of those videos that's bouncing around and all that other stuff, and I got a headache. But it didn't look that painful, John, so you had to do it. I know you're not supposed to give the details or results, but that's not something that's secret, right? That the media members who go into the complex get COVID tests?
No, it's not secret. If you're tier 2 media, they have these tiers. You have to get tested every day, essentially just like the players. So you have to get the test every day. And it's that drive-through nasal swab. I heard you guys talking about it like I was in some room.
Yeah, well, that's what Rothstein said. You're on a table, and then there was a nurse ratchet, and then some hot nurse.
Hold on. Came in.
Then
you said that.
Then some hot. We're trying to visualize it.
There's a lot of things a little bit too far. So essentially, you got to get tested. That's basically.
Bottom line, John, did it hurt?
No, it didn't hurt at all.
No.
Which, there's two different kinds of nasal swabs. The first one, and I talked about this with an actual doctor when I wrote about it on PhillyVoice.com. That's the one maybe you've seen online where they go all the way to the back, essentially to your throat. That's supposed to be uncomfortable. Then you got this mid-range nasal swab, which thankfully is what they did. But, you got to do it every day. So you're still worried about getting that one person that's going to shove it way up there, I would assume.
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
It happens.
Don't tell me about having things shoved up, John. Trust me, I've had some major probing going on for health reasons.
Yeah.
And that's for health reasons. These are all health reasons. This is for health, John. You want to know if you have the Rona, right? Everybody wants to know.
No, I don't want to know.
You don't want to know?
I don't want to know. No, I don't. I feel fine. I assume when I test positive, and I assume that's coming, I'm going to circle the drain immediately. I don't want to know. I feel completely fine. If I didn't have to take this test, I would not even go near it.
But see, wait a minute, John. Wouldn't you actually like to find out that you do have it while you're feeling fine? You're like, well, then I'm good.
No, not at all. I know I'm a hypochondriac. So I'll create issues.
Okay.
So you're saying that as soon as you found out you had it,
then
all of a sudden
he would be feeling bad because he's
Then you get all the symptoms, and then we'd have to put you into a 14-day quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be able to write your columns? Would you be able to do your podcast? Would you be able to come on this
I
program?
won't be able to get out of bed. That's my point. I will create issues.
I see. Okay, well,
by the way, we got breaking news from the NBA bubble. Ben Simmons has refused the mid-range swab test as well.
Is that right?
To go along with his lack of a mid-range jumper. How about that for knowledge? Bringing hockey, basketball, and football all together under one umbrella. Well, John, the big story today is 5 NFL on-field officials and 2 replay officials have opted out of the 2020 season. Did you know that, Aaron?
Well, who are they?
There's no referees, so they're all back judges.
The
only name I recognized was Gene Sterator's son, I believe, or is it his brother?
Yeah.
Is that his son? The younger Sterator is a back judge, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's his son. But, that's the only name, and nobody pays attention to other officials that aren't referees. So, but yeah, they were given the option, and they have a union as well. I think, the bigger issue, and our friend Tim McManus wrote about it today, so I'll give him a shout out. He did a good job. Is the coaches? I mean, they don't have an opt out, and a lot of those guys, and we've seen Doug, and only 3 have confirmed that they tested positive.
Right,
but,
Anthony Lynn, and you mentioned
Anthony Lynn, Doug Peterson, Sean Payton.
Right.
But now ESPN reports 9 have tested positive. They have a source who says that. So coaches, and if you think about their ages, and obviously they're more susceptible to having lingering effects. And, hey, it's up to the organization itself. And I think the fact that no coaches have opted out kind of tells you they don't think they can opt out. Because there would always be, I think, at the very minimum, a small few, not head coaches because they have so much pressure, so much high profile on them. But you look at somebody like Bruce Arians. I mean, he's had so many issues over the years, health-related. Think about Chuck Pagano. I think that's a bigger thing than people are making it out to be.
John McMullen. And then, by the way, the officials who opt out get a $30,000 stipend check.
Oh, yeah?
And they get their job guaranteed in 2021.
It's not a
next
bad
year.
gig.
No, I'll take the $30,000, sit at home and watch games and use that money to bet on football.
Can Bill Vinovich opt out?
No, they're the referees.
Yeah, I know.
My guess is that stipend has to be paid back on next year's salary. That's how they did it with
okay.
Is this like one of those PPP loans that the government's giving out to people, and now they're going to be taxed on it, I heard?
Yeah, that's how they did it with the players. So I'm guessing that the referees certainly didn't get a better deal. So while I say stipend, it's not really a stipend. You're not getting extra money. You're just getting something up front that you're going to have to take off your salary of next season.
That makes sense.
So apparently we're getting corrected. It's Sterator's brother who was the back judge in the NFL.
Okay.
And obviously Gene Sterator retired, and he's doing broadcasting.
I like Gene Sterator.
I like him, too.
Yeah.
Very solid.
Yeah.
He had great calls. And then Ed Hockley has the son that's an official now.
Correct.
And he hasn't opted out.
Gene Sterator, great basketball referee.
Yes, he is. He was. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely right.
All right, John. George Kittle signs. Travis Kelce signs. How long before Zach Ertz gets a new deal?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the Eagles tried to get it done early, as they always do. They tried to sign Zach to an extension last season, and he kind of begged off. Because he knew this was coming, and his agent, Steve Carrick, knew it was coming. And once George Kittle signed, once Travis Kelce signed, you're going to set that new bar. And even though Zach is probably number 3 on that list, still a heck of a lot more that he's going to get being number 3 than he would have gotten if he signed the extension last season. So I think it was a prudent decision by those two guys. From the Eagles' standpoint, I mean, they have issues under the cap next year, which is projected to go down for the first time in history due to the coronavirus. So they're going to have some tough decisions to make, and everybody's speculating because they also have Dallas Goedert. They're both under contract through 2021, so they're both in line for an extension after this season. That could be done earlier, obviously, but you really need 2 good tight ends in the modern NFL. So maybe the Eagles make the decision to go forward with Dallas Goedert and save some money.
Now we're seeing some players sign now because teams are looking. They now are back in their facilities, and they're looking around. And the Canadians have scored again, John.
Wow.
Flyers are just getting bodied out of the way.
Flyers
They're getting pushed around.
They don't even have a shot on goal.
No,
Tony.
they don't. It is now 8 shots to none for the Flyers.
And 2-0 on the scoreboard.
Exactly right. And the Flyers getting bodied off the puck, getting pushed around in front of the net. Got the spear, has one pop up off him. Canadians pull it down, center it, and then in front, got the spear, gets pushed around again. And then who was it that scored there, Harry?
I don't know.
Can't
Tatar had the first one.
Right. Just right in front of the net.
Right off a rebound.
It just dribbled in. Kakatiemi, that's the guy. Kakatiemi. That's the guy.
Can you say that on the radio?
Not
Kaja
Kajagoogoo, of course, because they did too shy.
It sounds to me like
Hush, hush.
cockamamie.
Kakatiemi.
It's a cockamamie story.
Not Not Cocopelli out there in Arizona, the great Cocopelli, Harry. You know him at all?
I do not.
Come on, Harry. Everybody's got a Cocopelli in their house in Arizona.
Is that right?
It's the guy playing the flute.
It's required.
Oh.
It's like a dude who's got dreads and he's playing a flute. That's like if you go to Arizona, every single store that you go into has Cocopellis on the wall, Harry. And everybody out in Arizona understands exactly what I'm talking about, Harry. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
A small window of people, Tony.
No, a lot of people have been to Arizona.
The Canadians don't even have their coach, do they?
No.
Am I right on that?
He had a stent put in.
Yes.
Yeah. That's bad news.
Chest pains. He's okay. They sent him back home. The Flyers will be sent back home if they keep playing like this. The good news is the Flyers, when they come back to Philadelphia for Game 3, that's right, they're not. There's no homeless.
Yeah. Well, John, Jerry Jones made some news this week saying that he intends on having fans in the building for his home games. What do you think the likelihood of that becoming a reality is?
I think it's a very good likelihood. I think people misunderstood, and they thought that he was saying they were going to have a full house. Mm-hmm. He was talking, socially distanced. So, and he was mentioning, obviously, that stadium is equipped better than most to do that type of thing. And if you have 20,000 fans, but you look at it from an NFC East standpoint, the MetLife Stadium has already said the Giants and Jets can't have fans.
Same with
Washington
the Eagles.
Football team, has said they can't have fans. Now, the city, the Eagles aren't official yet. The city keeps saying it doesn't look like they're going to have fans. And more than likely, they're not going to have fans, certainly early in the season, but that's not officially official. Mm-hmm. Either way, when the NFL had the calendar on its side, they made a big thing out of competitive equity and competitive balance. And now that they don't seem to care. Mm-hmm. So basically they're leaving it up to the state and local governments. So, if you're in the Northeast and you want fans in the building, you got a problem. If you're in Texas, you don't have that problem.
By the way, I understand that the Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney says in an effort to alleviate the recycling backdrop, because they haven't picked up recycling in the city for weeks now. It's actually a month the last time. People will be able to if you bring in a gigantic trash can full of recyclables to the game, you'll be able to sit next to the trash can and socially distance from the next fan who's bringing their recycles.
That's not a bad
idea. So Lincoln Financial Field will be all recyclable materials instead of plastic cardboard. People, bring your trash to Lincoln Financial Field, and they'll give you a free beer, I think. If you bring, they weigh the trash can to see how much is in there, and then if it weighs over 20 pounds of bottles and cans and all the other stuff, you'll get one free beer, Harry.
Wow. Jeffrey Lou has the windmills. He's got the solar panels.
Yeah.
And now he's
the
taking
windmills are down. They took those suckers down.
They took them down?
Yeah.
Now, I have a friend who obviously hasn't had their recycling picked up in a long time. And I asked him, why don't you just throw it in the trash? And he said, well, they don't pick that up either. So
no, that's what my neighbors are doing, John. That's a great point. Because my neighbors, I said, did you not put your recycling? He said, no, I'm just putting everything in one bag now. So that's what fans have. That's what people have to do, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to separate it anymore. I'm putting all the trash recycling in one black bag because we got neighbors here with paper bags outside. It's been raining. They put their stuff in paper bags, so when the recycling people, if they ever come,
the whole street stinks too. By the way,
it stinks. There's rats. There's millions of flies.
I
got a million flies in this house.
Awful.
I had to get my phone.
At some point, you got to do it. You want to do the right thing. You want to recycle, but if they're not going to pick it up, you got to get rid of it. Yeah. And if they're picking up the trash, you got to throw it in the trash. I'm sorry.
Damn right. By the way, speaking of not trash, because Dalvin Cook's pretty good, but he still doesn't have a contract situation going, and he says 3 days before their first padded practice, Dalvin Cook says he will participate in Monday's session with or without a contract extension.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have much leverage. So that's a lot of. I mean, the way they set up the new CBA, you're not going to get, if you hold out, you're not going to get an accrued season. So what can you do? You either play, and he plays out his rookie deal, and or the Vikings want to work out a long-term contract, which they do. But that's been one of those teams that has had some issues from a salary cap standpoint as well. So you try to kick the can down the road as long as you can. They'll ultimately take care of Dalvin Cook. I don't think there's any question about it. But those old school stories I think everybody runs with in the off season that so-and-so is going to hold out. I don't think they're paying attention to the CBAs now because you just don't have any leverage.
No, you got to give Dalvin Cook credit because he wasn't one of those guys. He said, that was never coming from me. I never talked about holding out this offseason. He never considered not showing up. He showed up on July 28th. That gives him credit toward the 2020 season. He says, he's going to play on the 1.33. He's hoping to get an extension. But he said, this is where I want to be. This is what I love to do. I was going to be here regardless of whatever the speculation that came up if I wasn't coming in. I was going to be here ready to work. I've been grinding all off season, hitting the weights, hitting the field, getting better at my craft and my position to get ready to play. So you got to give him credit for that because guys now like, I'm not coming in. You better pay me. And you mentioned that he doesn't have leverage, but at least he realizes it and isn't playing that game with the Vikings, publicly at least.
Yeah, I mean, the smart ones leave it up to their agent anyway, and they let them try to play the games and use what leverage they can. I think from Cook's camp standpoint was, the Vikings are one of the few teams in the modern NFL that really, really rely on the running back. There aren't many teams that do. And because of the way they're set up, they do a lot of play action with Garrett Kubiak. And Dalvin Cook's the most important player on that offense. And you don't say that about running backs in this league much anymore. So I think his agent was trying to use that and say, look how important this guy is to you. But again, at the end of the day, when you hit the end of the road, if you don't have leverage, you don't have leverage.
Hey, John, did you watch Hard Knocks Episode 1? Because from what I understand, it was the lowest ratings ever for a first episode of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, it did really bad. It was, I think, 700. Remember, it's paid television, so
Exactly.
It's not huge numbers.
Right.
They lost me because I don't have HBO anymore. So
Well, it was 273,000 viewers,
Yeah.
and last year was 705. 705.
705. Yeah, so it was really bad. I mean, some people brought up you didn't have, this year, because of the strange circumstances, you have live sports. So you have NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball. So more competition than typically for the sports fan. But, normally the NFL is bulletproof. So I do think it's a little bit of a concern. I think that show kind of jumped the shark a couple of years ago.
That's what it is.
It did.
That's what it is. I totally agree with you, John. It's jumped the shark because it's heavily edited. The stuff is recorded a week in advance, and then
the same narrative.
And speaking of the narrative, the narrator, you know who that is, don't you?
Liev Schreiber.
Yes, he is phenomenal with that. People don't realize how good he is. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
But he does so many voiceover things.
Ray Donovan.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Liev Schreiber. I saw Adam Schefter posted a picture of him. Did you see how he does it? He's got like this little box. And there's a teleprompter in front of him with the copy, and he sits there, and he's got the mic right in front of him, and he's looking into a box so he can stay focused straight ahead.
Wow. He looks like an NFL official reviewing a play.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, he was looking.
Oh, what's in the box?
Liev Schreiber was in the box.
I heard the biggest thing that came out of the episode was Sean McVay getting annoyed that somebody took a dump in a porta potty.
Wow. Is that breaking news?
Yeah. You can't go number 2 in the porta potty.
Oh, wow.
Never asked in the porta potty. Yeah, that'll be good. I also think it was too big. It was sort of too big of a COVID commercial. Like, look at what we're doing. Look at how great we are. I think, I don't think that part of it might be as entertaining for the average fan. I guess the biggest news with Anthony Lynn admitting that he tested positive. So he's one of those 9 coaches. But that might also be something. Instead of one team, you got 2 teams. And that lessens the focus. So I think it's a lot of things. But Amazon, all or nothing, that has been better the last couple of years. Although that was the Eagles last year. It wasn't very good, to be honest.
Nah, it's jumped the shark. I got more.
Just a bunch of local radio.
By the way, it's Shark Week and all this other stuff going on. And you're right. Normally, it's only baseball going on right now.
Right.
It's only baseball. So people are not ready for football yet. They haven't seen any training camp. They know there's not going to be any preseason games to talk about. So, and you're right. Baseball, hockey, basketball, soccer.
Yeah.
There's a lot on at night.
Yeah, competition is much more hard. But you know what? Those things haven't been doing great either. For some reason, you would think people would be watching more television during the pandemic, but that has not been the case, at least for most TV shows.
Yeah, I stopped watching once
strange.
Ellen's staff all got accused of hitting on each other and being pedophiles. That's when I gave up, John.
I think it's more Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah.
But, people have not been, and I think TV executives have been greatly disappointed by that. It's tough to watch some of these things with no fans, number one. And then if you look, even from an entertainment perspective, you watch the nighttime talk shows, they're unwatchable.
I can't even watch highlights from the nighttime talk shows. They're so bad.
Who you got in the play-in game tomorrow?
What is it, Memphis and Portland?
Yes. What's the number in that game tomorrow? Do we know?
I guess
Portland's
I got to go Portland. It's a shame the Suns weren't in it. I mean, that would have been...
Portland's 6. Favored by 6.
Yeah, that would have been a better story. Because they finished, They finished 8-0 in the
8-0, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even get a chance to play in?
Nope.
Come on, give them a chance. Why not? You change every rule anyway. Give them a chance.
I got to rip somebody on Twitch, John, and it's not you, believe it or not. It's Bud Bundy, not Bud Dwyer. Bruno's saying something has jumped the shark, and yet he still has Jose on weekly with his act. That's once a week. It's a 1 or 2 minute call. And by the way, have you listened to other radio people who've been doing it for a long time, doing the same thing? That's what it's called. It's not called jumping the shark. Jumping the shark is when you have the NFL trying to force feed something to you, and the customers say they don't want it anymore. And when people say they don't want Jose anymore, I'll say screw you, because he'll call and we'll put him on. And if he's not good, we run him. That's how it works. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's been grandfathered in on the show. Yeah. What Up Wednesday is grandfathered in.
It's like he won the Masters. He's automatically invited back every year. You know what I'm saying? Until he's too old to swing it.
Yep.
Okay?
That's exactly how it is.
Right?
That's exactly
It always comes back to golf,
Yes,
Tony.
it does, Harry. Yes, it does. John, have a great weekend, man. We'll see you next week as we start getting camp action.
Yeah.